Christ clean me up. Christ clean me up. I ain't got a stain and I'm feeling brand new. Yeah, 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 yeah. Christ clean me up. Yeah, I'm like this. The gospel, my friend, made me righteous. Now I'm walking like Christ in his likeness. I can't live the same, I don't desire it. Hold on, man. We're gonna do it like this. Yeah, I'm like this. The gospel, my friend, made me righteous. Walking like Christ in his likeness. Can't live the same, I don't desire it. Cause I admire him. Yeah, boy, I'm like this. The gospel changed me up, I got a new frame. Can't live the same, I got a new brain. New eyes, new heart, can't do the same. Yeah, got a new name. Yeah, boy, I'm like this. Righteous all because of Christ did. Being conformed to his likeness, new man's priceless. Yeah, he didn't leave me in the muck and mire. He constantly cleaning me up. He giving new desires. By his grace, ain't living the same. Living in shame, living unashamed. Living to give glory to his names. Christians repent, we had a change of mind. So we literally ain't seeing the same. New frame, new brain. Yeah, my faith in God brought new actions. Before I chase worldly passions. Yeah, now I'm like this, righteous. Hey, brothers, no longer blind. Yeah, I'm like this. The gospel, my friend, made me righteous. Walking like Christ in his likeness. Can't live the same, I don't desire it. Cause I admire him. Yeah, boy, I'm like this. The gospel changed me up, I got a new frame. Can't live the same, I got a new brain. New eyes, new heart, can't do the same. Yeah, got a new name. Yeah, boy, I'm like this. All things theology, all things theology. We chop it up properly, without an apology. Gotta give doxology to God, hallowed be, cause this is how we do it at All Things Theology.
Yo, grace and peace, and welcome back to an episode of All Things Theology, where this is your host, K-Dub. Today, we're going to be talking about the BBC documentary that everybody, I'm sure, at this point has heard about. What I want to do is play a plethora of clips from part 1, part 2, and part 3, just to give you a taste of what the BBC documentary presented. And we will talk about some of those things, and yeah, we'll give our takes on it. See what you guys think of TB Joshua after this. Let me just say this, that as far as the clips go, I have altered the sound, so it will sound like chipmunks, right? And distorted some of the video just so, right, we don't want to get hit with copyright issues, right? But nevertheless, for those who have seen the documentary, I am very curious to what you think about this. Let me just say this as well, that I thought the BBC documentary actually did a good, decent job trying to be fair. Not that I agree with every conclusion they might have made, or even every person that was on there, right, their lifestyle. That just goes without saying. But let me just say this about the documentary and as a whole. It was not something that was put together hastily. I'll say that. This was a 2-year process. This was also over 30 people, not just people. Let me actually back up. 30 leaders or people who were involved in the ministry for some time, speaking out. It wasn't people that just like went there one time, 2 times, right? These were people that were heavily involved. Like literally, they have clips of them speaking and stuff like that. And so these were people that were close to TB Joshua, right? And not just one person, but multiple people. So I thought that was interesting as well. I think this, says a lot about TB Joshua's legacy, because there are many people who've come out, right, trying to defend him, right? We talked about Passion Java, right? Daniel Adams, I see he's been going on some, tirade, or, he's trying to defend him, right? Because a lot of the legacy of the deliverance ministry people comes from TB Joshua. A lot of the stuff we see where Christians having demons and either getting cast out of them, well, a lot of that can be rooted and traced back to TB Joshua. So if TB Joshua comes out to be a fraud and faking all this stuff, which there's high, strong evidence of this, then that kind of casts doubt on his legacy and the people that are currently taking the stake, right? Taking the mantle in TB Joshua's legacy. And so I don't want to take too much time. I want to get right into it because, man, we got a lot to get into. Some of the stuff we're going to get into is going to be, strange, but we're going to see, some of the people that we have, covered, kind of where they got it from, and no other than this clip proves my point.
When I first arrived, it was only a couple of days that I started hearing disciples calling him Daddy. We all called him Daddy. Everybody called him Daddy. He tried to look after us, and we would all call him Daddy. It was a bit odd, but I brushed it aside. I dismissed it. And
so the issue of Daddy, right, being called Daddy, this was a thing that he was being called in the ministry, in the church, in the temple, whatever you want to call it, synagogue, right? He was being called Daddy, and we see that a lot with other people, right? Passion Java, right, and even Lily Jala is called Mama, right? This family thing, right, to where, hey, I'm a father figure to you, so I'll never hurt you, right? And things like that. And so obviously that's not the biggest disagreement in the film, but it is kind of like the first strange thing that they saw once they kind of got inside the ministry. Hey, they start living, and they all, in the film is going to get into this, they all lived in this compound, right? There's living quarters. If you were part of the ministry, you had to live in these living quarters. And we're going to see it ran like a cult. There's no liberty to just leave once you're like, hey, I want to do something else. No, it's you were forced to stay there. And so that was one interesting thing, but here's some more on the living situation that I found interesting as well.
Oh, they are well treated here, like kings and princes. Feeding is free. Accommodation is free.
Now, one thing you're going to see is oh man, how could he be a bad guy, right? He's feeding these people. He's providing them housing, clothing. He sounds like a stand-up guy, right? Well, this is generally how you get sucked in. You don't get sucked into a cult by the guy saying, hey, I'm going to abuse you, mistreat you, right? Most people would leave. I would venture to say all people would leave. But it reminds me of Jim Jones. There's going to be a lot of comparative things with Jim Jones in this film. And one of the things Jim Jones would do, as well as he did, was you saw the good side first, right? You saw, a charismatic person, who was kind, even would give you the shirt off his back. You see a lot of that stuff with, TB Joshua, but I'll let this play.
We were living on site in the church. When you live at the compound, you don't leave the compound. There's armed men at the gate with guns.
Armed men at the gates.
There's a wall, there's barbed fencing.
Look at this. So does this look like a place you can just freely leave? Right? You have armed men at the gate, right? You got barbed wire. And I don't know if I put this in. I don't think I did. I think I took this out, but go watch the film. Their doors were locked. They couldn't just leave the rooms. And so, he had all kinds of justifications for why that was. But, come on. This is not a place you could just freely leave and freely go.
The windows are blacked out. The stairs were concrete. The walls were concrete. It felt like a labyrinth. You're told never to leave. You could get killed. You could get attacked. The outside of the compound is terrifying. The disciples were a group of about 100 at a time, from Nigeria, from the UK, from America, and usually quite young people.
So what? Again, the film goes further than this, but he had this inner group called the disciples, right? And the disciples were young people. Right, we're going to see the interesting part of that, right? Because, young people, right, 16, 17, 18 years old, it said in this film that he didn't want older people being a part of the disciples group. Generally that's because older people are, have more life experiences. They're smarter, right? I mean, no shots to younger people, but you generally get smarter, the more you get older. Generally, not always the case. But, he wanted young people. And then even in that, he wanted a particular kind of young people, which we're going to see. If the film doesn't get into that, I'll talk about that.
When I had this opportunity, I was like, this is what I've been looking for. This is a prophet who has been called by God. God speaks to him directly. He'll be able to guide me in how I can live my life.
Isn't it just safe to go with what the Bible says, right? This is what I constantly get on, right? About people kind of having some superior authority and claim because they quote unquote hear from God. I would argue all Christians hear from God if they're reading their Bible. See?
Male dormitory and a female dormitory. There was a culture of like nakedness in the room. It was good to be body positive and not have any clothes on. Just being completely naked in the female dorm room, my mind instantly went to Adam and Eve. I really thought, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I got taken by 2 women and they stripped me naked. And they pushed me in a shower and turned the water on. And I remember saying something along the lines of, I can do it. And they were like, no, we're your sisters now. We're here to do this for you. I didn't really know anyone's last name, really their age. I was Sister Kara. I was Sister Annika. That was immediately encouraged to see each other as family.
And like all cults, they take true things and they manipulate them. So this idea of family, right? One can make a strong argument, right? Obviously a clear argument, biblical argument, that Christians are part of a family, right? We've been brought into the family of God. TB Joshua would take that to twist into, right, make this family cult. But we're going to move on because I want to introduce this idea of healings, but we're going to expound much greater when we get to part 3. Again, this is part 1 video clips, but I want to introduce this idea of healings.
With the charismatic Christian movement, there is such desperation. We believe in miracles, we believe in healing, but then I've asked myself, where are all these healings? Where are these miracles?
And that's another thing that gains momentum in cults and in charismatic crowds, right? Healings. If someone can do a healing, they're automatically propped up to some prophet, apostle, some great man of God, right? One thing you fail to realize is that there were people of, unbelievers in the Bible did miracles, and so doing a miracle does not give you automatic stamp of approval, right? Satan can do miracles, right? So that's one thing. 2, this young girl, and again, we're going to get into this a lot later about, she's saying, I never even saw a miracle there. Now you're going to be like, wait a minute. Weren't there literally hundreds, thousands of people who were healed? Well, again, I'm introducing this idea so that later we can expound on it. But many people that left here said, I never saw a miracle. Matter of fact, I witnessed multiple scams, multiple, self-proclaimed miracles, but never a legitimate miracle.
It had a really profound effect on me.
Look at the screen of the television right now.
It was an African church. And I was like, what am I seeing? What am I watching?
Oh my God.
They were quite graphic. There was no warning. It was private body parts that were swollen and kind of oozing with pus. These people with cancers and growths, just being vulnerable and desperate.
Now, there's 2, again, I don't want to spoil it because we're going to get there in a second, but man, I kind of want to get into it, but we're going to get into it on the third part. But this is actually the sad part of cults. You actually have people who are physically, with sickness, illness, disease, And they go around this ministry thinking, because right, they're promoting themselves as, oh, we're healing all people, sickness, disease, right? And they come here because they're vulnerable, expecting for you to do a miracle, only to leave disappointed. And now some kind of animosity to Christianity, right? Because you're lying to them. See, this is the sad part about cults and false religions. They don't care who they lie to. They don't care who they abuse. As long as it can grow their popularity in ministry, and you can sow a seed, they don't care who they hurt along the way.
It was shocking to see.
I command them out in the name of Jesus.
The church had documented basically very raw, very rough cut productions of miracles. The people I saw in the videos, they were real. Their ailments, their sicknesses, their suffering was evidently real. And then,
now we're going to get into this because you're going to be like, wait, how did they experience a healing? Right? But we're going, again, part 3 is actually going to get into how he manipulated people. And I actually found this interesting because I've never actually heard of anybody doing this, which only probably begs the question that it happens a lot more today than we can even fathom and imagine, right? But let's actually get into this.
And there were these incredible documented healings. I saw a lady with breast cancer. And then a few days later, the wound had healed. And everyone is just in awe. I was like, what? How is that possible? How is that happening?
And she's actually getting to the point, maybe unintentionally, that so many people, as long as they can do an alleged miracle, a self-perceived miracle, they're giving validation as being from God. Who cares about their doctrine, right? Who cares about their theology, all this stuff? As long as you can allegedly, right, get somebody's stomach virus out, right? You're a man of God, right? Interesting, right?
Here was somewhere where breast cancer wasn't a death sentence. Here was hope. And then slowly, I saw the man who was praying for these people. This African man comes and reaches his arm out from a distance, and then they were being healed. This is what Jesus would have done. Who is this man? What church is this? Where is this place? What I saw wasn't something that you could forget.
Now, one thing that the film clearly presents is that all these people clearly idolized TB Joshua. It was actually said in the film that they thought it was God. Hold on, let me hear right here. It was God, and then it was TB Joshua, and that they both possessed the same authority. It just goes to show you, hey, I don't care what movement you are. A good learning lesson is never to put someone near, not even this is too close to God, right? Never to idolize that, to idolize someone to the point to where they're on near an authority as Christ.
It just never left my mind. I thought, well, maybe this is the answer to my problems. Maybe this man can straighten me out. Like, if he prays me, I won't be gay anymore, and then I can just give my life to God.
So that the girl that was just on the screen, she's clearly, right, homosexual, right? Not even trying to hide it. But she was, I guess, at one point struggling, battling with this in the mind. Doesn't seem like that is the case now. She's gone full blown, right, in her sin. But nevertheless, her solution to get rid of this problem was like, well, I just need to get near the prophet and he'll heal me. Is that how the Bible talks about how we get healed from, is that how we overcome the battle of sin? Is to get near a man of God and he'll cast whatever it is out of me. See, this is actually the problem that the deliverance ministry makes, is it's something inside of you that needs to be, it's not truly you, right? Some kind of demonic problem you're dealing with that needs to just be casted out. See, that's the problem I've said for a long time with the deliverance ministry. And where are they getting this from? TB Joshua. And we're going to see that very clear. He believed that some sin was a demonic presence in someone, not someone that they need to deny themselves. You know, as the Bible teaches, sanctification. You know, it was none of that for these deliverance ministers. But again, it all roots back to TB Joshua.
And that started my pursuit to Nigeria. I booked a flight with a friend of mine. I was so excited. It was like I was going to go into a time machine and travel back to biblical times, and I was going to meet Jesus.
Wow.
I didn't get off the bus one day and decide to go to Lagos. I was already seeking something greater than what I'd seen.
And so she says, hey, look, I thought I was going to TB Joshua was like going back in a time machine to see Jesus himself. That's what she thought. One of the things you're going to see is that people will see him on TV, whatever, cassette. It shows you how older this was, right? And they would say, hey, look, I need to move there, right? Because I need to be near where the move of God is happening. You see kind of similar movements like that today where, right, their solution, I think of Bethel, right, Redding, California. They kind of, not to say it's exactly like this, but a lot of people solution to their problem they're dealing with is to move to go to this movement, right? This ministry, as if that alone will solve your problem, right? But again, yeah. So that you had a lot of that people moving to Africa from the UK, from London, right, to all sorts of areas to get close to TB Joshua. I mean, it just shows you how bad this was. But Here's an interesting clip I want to talk about next.
I lived there as one of the...
Now, this lady's on the screen because a lot of people have been saying, hey, why speak out now that TB Joshua is dead? Well, this lady on the screen, she has been speaking out. I came to this knowledge after, I guess, watching the film. She has been speaking out even before TB Joshua died. Spoiler alert, TB Joshua is no longer alive, just in case you didn't know that. But she has been speaking out for numerous years, and one of the things about cults, we'll get to this in a second, just very shortly, is cult leaders will always do one thing when it comes to before their victims ever speak out. And is that they'll make them appear as if they're crazy, unreliable, very sinful, to the point to where when they start speaking out, no one believes them because you've already painted this picture of they're crazy, they're unreliable. See, they're just, insane. They're demon possessed, all sorts of things. We'll get to that in a second.
Closest disciples, a loyalist to the core.
I was very close to him. I was just like the number 2 in the synagogue church of all nations. There are certain things he told me personally that I know many of the disciples never knew. He knows exactly what he wanted to achieve.
Oh, one thing I want to talk about is he was a mastermind when it came to marketing. TB Joshua would literally film everything. I mean, just about everything, right? Obviously. But nearly everything was being recorded at this facility, at this compound house, as they call it, quite interesting. But he felt everything needed to be recorded. Again, the film goes into this as well. Everything needs to be recorded because everything is content, right? His life became content, not just the teachings, but him just walking around doing, going to the prayer house became content. And so we're going to see how he, how do I say this, marketed off of that, but yeah.
He had special interest in the Oyibo, the whites.
Are you surprised that God is using a black man to do all these things? I'm sorry.
I'm not surprised that God is using a black man. Never ever have I seen the power of God manifest like it's here.
1996, one of the major pastor came from South Africa. When they were leaving, he gave more than 200 VHS videos to take home to give to people. Videos of miracles, videos of confessions, videos that will fill their head. I said, this is expensive. He laughed. You think I'm a fool? I know what I'm doing.
So one of the things we're going to see right here is that, right, a cult leader, a false teacher even, will have to gain credibility if they want the movement to survive. And one of the things he did is, I know because I've had African people tell me this, they view almost like connecting yourself to a white person, is as a badge of acceptability, and so one of the things he would do is he, got white people kind of interested to assimilate his messages to all kinds of people. And the film goes on to talk about why he did that. Now, I'm not going to get into it, but I thought their reasoning was interesting.
A time will come. This synagogue church is going to shoot out from South Africa to the whole world.
Believe you me, brothers and sisters, Nigeria was the last place on earth that I ever wanted to come to. They fraudsters, they money launderers, they drug peddlers. And I say, God, sorry. Yeah, he's a piece of heaven on earth.
The greatest in the Pomp Synagogue Church was when the foreigners started coming. This was strategic, and it was planned.
I just got a confession to make that I want the whole world to know. In the past, I've always hated blacks. I really hated them. When I got back over here, I saw the love that we received from black people.
He used the white people to market his brand. Having white man or white woman around is like you have achieved.
Now, see exactly what I've said. I mean, let's be honest. He used white people, right, to assimilate his message. And let's be honest, it wasn't just white people he used, but he used everybody. He was using everybody. He doesn't care who you are. Even family members were used. I mean, literally everybody that TB Joshua, from their point of view, only cared about TB Joshua. And we're going to see that very clearly.
He just say, look at these people. They don't know where they are.
Each one that goes home tries to contact his brothers, contact his friend in US, contact those in UK.
What do you have to say? I never experienced anything like that before, but I will bring all of this back to my country. I will tell people.
And so there we go. I thought that was interesting. But let's get into this next clip about the manipulation. Again, every cult leader majors in extreme forms of manipulation. So let's talk about this.
The whites, they didn't come to become disciples. It's when they got to the synagogue church, that's when the manipulation starts.
We count ourselves.
Again, so it's like I said, when you first meet a cult leader, they don't come out with a red flag, pitchfork saying, hey, I'm a cult leader, right? No one would join. You actually get an extreme form, and you see this a lot with narcissists. They're overly kind, and overly what's the word I'm looking for? Just complimentary for no reason. Oh, brother, you just, just out of nowhere, they're just all giving you compliments, right? Yeah, they're pumping your head up, right? They're pumping your head up like, oh, this guy is nice, he's kind, he's complimentary, right? You see that a lot with narcissists. Narcissists will do that a lot when you're on their good side. You'll get a lot of compliments, and just not just compliments, right? Because I believe we should be complimentary, right? We should give compliments when they're due, but just for no reason, And so you got a lot of that with TB Joshua. You were a great speaker. The way you held that microphone was just great. And then he got into the movement, right? Yeah, Alton Johnson, even the man of God, right? You get a lot of that speak, right? Just for, you don't even know me yet. You're already calling me that. But then you get in the movement, and then you see a lot of the controlling behavior. That's why some people I didn't even recognize this person. Well, actually, what you're seeing is the true person come out. The fake person was the complimentary person, the kind person, right? They use that as a sense to get what they want. They know what they're doing.
So lucky to have found this little place of miracles, of wonder, in the middle of nowhere.
Some intelligent disciples have been sent to stalk on the whites. It's not everybody that we approach. We look at you, when we see the way you fall into what is happening in synagogue church, we'll come after you.
So this guy is going to say, he's saying, hey, we were looking for certain people to be TB Joshua's disciples, and not just everybody. You had to be a certain kind. You had to be into it, for one, right? You can't just be as a spectator, right? You had to be into it. And I've already talked about this. You had to be young, right? They didn't want 30-year-olds to be disciples, right? You know too much. You had to be 16, 17-ish, around that impressionable age. And he talks about this, young white people and girls particularly as well. Not that they didn't go after men, but I mean, I think there's a reasoning for that.
I just remember sitting there thinking to myself, this is incredible. I feel like I'm sitting in the Garden of Gethsemane under the olive trees with Jesus.
They don't know we are picking them. But myself and TB Joshua, we know what we were doing. He loves young ones, right? He loves young ones, teenagers.
We don't go for the old people. The young ones, they're very vulnerable.
That's right.
And they are the easy people to manipulate, especially unmarried people. Especially unmarried young people.
So notice who they were specifically targeting to be the disciples: unmarried young people, right? Because married people, right, they come together, they talk, they're close. It's hard to break that bond. You see something wrong, y'all go and talk about it. You got your husband to kind of shepherd you. But if you're just by yourself, your own thoughts, I mean, hey, it is, right? Those are the people easier to manipulate. That's why generally, like, people, if they get married young, they're actually more mature, right? You ever notice that? Not to say that you can't be mature in your singleness, but marriage matures you in a way that being single by yourself doesn't.
I was 17 years old. I got my A-level results while I was in Nigeria.
17 years
but
old.
I couldn't care less about them. I wanted to be like Jesus. I wanted to be like TB Joshua. I wish I could have that connection with God. I wanted to be like him.
He said, tell them that they should be missionary for the synagogue. You stay here 3 months, you become like TB Joshua.
Let me tell you, he's going to open branches in UK, in America, and everywhere. He's not going to send us to go there. You are the person that go there. Let them begin to crave to be disciples. Begin to surrender their lives to Joshua.
So he would create these disciples with the intention that they would go back to their homeland, to these countries, to be disciples for TB Joshua. So he would train them to, hey, you'll be like me. You'll be able to do what I can do. I mean, if Simon the sorcerer if I believed in reincarnation, clearly TB Joshua would be Simon the sorcerer. Very clear. Another interesting point, guys, you're going to find this one of the most bizarre, mind-blowing things. So let's get into this.
One of my jobs was writing articles for the church. He called me in and he said, where's the article? Have you not published it yet? And I said, sorry, sir, I've not published it yet. And then he just slapped me.
So she was to publish this article, didn't have it done by the deadline, and she's claiming that she got slapped for it, like physically assaulted. One thing you're going to see or being alleged, is that TB Joshua had an extreme anger problem, and he would literally beat them for not doing what he wanted them to do. As you see there.
TB Joshua had a massive temper. You see people coming and they would be like, he's hot, hey, he's hot. Daddy's hot. And you would literally see everybody just scatter. If you didn't run, you'd get an almighty big slap around the face. And I witnessed that regularly. You didn't see it as physical abuse. We were told it's an honor to get slapped by me because I'm next to Jesus.
So he was telling these people, hey, once they saw his anger, they would start scattering. But then if he would get his hands on you to slap you, he would tell them, hey, it's an honor to, because I'm next to Jesus. I mean, my goodness.
He wants to control everybody, everything.
Our bathroom stalls had just like curtains on them. And if anyone thought you were doing anything, they could just, flip the curtain.
Will bug you. Even your record while you're taking your shower in the bathroom.
Oh, one of the things that the film gets into is that this man literally had cameras everywhere, audio recordings everywhere to listen in to conversations, cameras everywhere. He had to, right? They had eyes on you. So guess what? Now it becomes harder to speak. And we're going to get into that later. Like, you may be asking yourself, okay, if all this was going on, why didn't people speak out? Well, I think there's a reasoning for that. Not that it's a legitimate reason, but there is a reason given to that. Well, one thing you know, or may not know, that in cults, there's tactics to how you gain control over people, right? It's not just verbally assaultive, but one thing that happens is that, let me just say this. Jim Jones practiced this very much too. You overwork them. You have them believing that they are working for a cause greater than themselves, and you overwork them. So at this point, they're not getting much sleep. Now, if you're not getting much sleep, you're not cognitively aware. There's been many studies to how sleep affects the body. It affects the psyche. He clearly was employing this tactic on these people. So let's hear them talk about it.
We'll record you. We will keep it as evidence.
There was these pads of white, small, note paper called disciple paper, and that's what he used to give permission for things. You'd have to go to the office and say, "Sir, I'm sorry, I really need to have a quick sleep." And he'd sign a pass for you, because if you didn't have a pass...
Notice this. So if these people wanted extra sleep, which is actually just normal sleep, they would have to get a pass, as you see on the screen here, to sleep. That's what it literally says. It's like a permission to sleep, pass to sleep, and have it be signed by TB Joshua. My goodness, talk about a cult. They are literally having to get permission to sleep. I mean, you can't even get 7 hours of sleep. You're being overworked, right? You're being mind controlled slowly, right? This is your idol, so you're not going to tell him no, right? This is why I prefer my idols like I prefer my fish, dead. It is a dangerous thing to have a living idol or a living hero, right? Because the dead ones, they don't change, they can't affect you, right? The living ones can. So I prefer my heroes like I prefer my fish, dead. Cyrus asked me, do I think Christians should go to his church and protest? I think we should sound the alarm and warn. I mean, his church is in Nigeria, so it'll be a little difficult for most people watching this channel, right? Especially probably in America to do so, but definitely warn about the dangers of TB Joshua, because now his wife is leading the ministry, and I am I can only assume. So someone's asking, he still has a church. Yes, that is ran by his wife now. So the legacy of TB Joshua is still continuing, still going out there. The legacy is going on between many false teachers: Daniel Adams, Lovi Elias, TB Joshua. So many of these people have their influences directly from TB Joshua. I mean, I remember a clip of Daniel Adams talking about, I feel like I'm in total TB Joshua mode. Some of you guys may remember that clip of me playing that. But yeah, he would employ this sleep, and you would have to get a passport, a pass to get sleep.
You'd get reported for sleeping.
That time when they see anybody sleeping, that person will be in trouble.
I want you guys to hear this story they're about to share, because this one's insane.
There would be times that I'd be falling asleep like this, and he would say, "Stand up." And you literally have to stand up, and then at times I would fall asleep while standing.
Somebody was so tired, he slept, opened his mouth. TB Joshua led 4 boys. They pee inside his mouth.
Very sad what was going on. Abby asked me, what are my thoughts on Jimmy Stewart? I have never heard of him. If you want me to review something, send me some content, but I have never heard of Mr. Jimmy. But yeah, you have these people sleep deprived, right? You're trying to take a nap, and one of the things is he catches you, and he had little whisperer, he had little people who would go around the camp literally snitching on each other, and that's what you do in cults too. You have your little watchmen, right? And those people get the best treatment. They'd be the ones allowed to get more sleep, extra food, sort things like this. So you're malnourished. You're not sleeping a lot. Guys, your mind is not in a place to critically analyze anything being taught, right? He's making you work so many hours. I mean, you're not in a mindset to actually fight back because you're not getting the things you properly need to examine things. But again, and so a part of me kind of feels two ways, because these people wanted this prior to them getting there, right? Bad doctrine and all. But then while they got there, they realized it was not what they were told and promised. That's how all false doctrine is ultimately. Someone asked, I wonder how he's doing now. Well, unfortunately, TB Joshua died. And let me get into this, because there are different. I looked on how he died. There are different reports. I saw one, it was heart attack. I saw one it was potentially COVID, because he died like two years ago. And then I saw most of the alleged information it's undisclosed, and they're not releasing how. So I don't know how he actually died, which is interesting, right? Some have claimed suicide, maybe. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting. But let's get into this last clip on part 1.
Here is Prophet TB Joshua at the age of 32, cleaning the toilets of the church every day for 3 years.
TB Joshua told us that his coming to the earth was prophesied some 100 years ago. He looked like someone who can solve your problem.
Joshua invested more than 90% of what we got in VHS videos.
So one of the things you would see, he was using the church's funds. This gentleman says, hey, 90% of the money was going to recording everything. So mass exposure. Some people some false teachers get famous just by mass exposure, right? I mean, I think of Catherine Crick. Nothing about her teaching or doctrine is remarkable. She's just everywhere, right? She's just all over YouTube. And so, yeah.
Oh, he gives the cameraman his record everything.
Record everything.
So many videos, so many. He came with something different, something unusual, something that was never in the Christendom. The whole world had never seen something like this.
Who are you? Who are you? Who are you?
When he looked into my eyes, he pierced into my subconscious. His eyes were enchanting.
Oh, one thing I forgot I didn't put this in here. But one of the things that he's accused of is witchcraft. And they gave examples of what he would do. There's a scene where it talks about the fish and what he did to kind of, I'm not going to get into it, but they did give examples of how many of these people believed he was actually doing witchcraft. And some have even speculated maybe he was doing some healings on the power of Satan himself. Again, that's some of their conclusions. I don't know about that part, but I thought that was an interesting point.
I wanted to cry.
Evil spirits, these are the people who are demonically possessed, and that's the people who are sitting at the screen of the television right now. Fire! Fire! All parts of your body, right now in the name of Jesus. Right now, all your dress, your clothes, your dress, your shirt, every part of your body.
You can imagine how powerful he was. There are some things I don't know how to explain. You can deliver somebody with evil spirit just with a single sentence.
Why are you hiding? Can't look at your face. Who are you?
You know, this reminds me exactly what we see today with these charlatans. You know, Daniel Adams and Catherine Crick are like the worst form of this. But all these deliverance ministries, I mean, it looks like all the same. He's talking to Satan. You know, you cast him out, and the demon's kind of doing all this weird stuff, and you know, this mockery of the demon, which actually the Bible tells us not to do. They get that from him. He was the one that was doing all this. So you're like, where are these people getting from? Yeah, of course not the Bible, but TB Joshua.
Agent of Satan.
Huh?
Agent of Satan.
Agent of Satan.
Yes, sir.
If people want to talk about him, they talk about him under their breath. They're afraid of his spiritual power.
There is victory in his blood.
In his blood.
There is healing
There is healing.
in his blood.
In his blood.
There is deliverance
There is
in
deliverance.
his blood.
In his blood.
The spiritual power of TB Joshua hypnotizes people, affects people's minds.
I think that was a lack of sleep and malnutrition too.
Thought it could be an angel or something.
It was like something, there was an explosion in my head. Ooh! If you place God and place him, I will put both of them together. He was like a god to me.
Yeah, so you create this fear, you create this illusion to people that you are literally the second coming of Christ. And of course you have people's minds warped in this cult. So that was part one of the film. Again, there's a lot more to it. But again, we're trying to speed through a lot of this. I know I got a lot to say and commentary on something but there's some issues. This second part was very interesting. So yeah.
He lived there completely by himself. We used to refer to it as 5-story because it was the 5th floor. It was a very lavish, presidential set of rooms. Daddy, as we used to call him, he had young Nigerian boys that would run around for him up in his 5-story bedroom. You know, they'd get anything he wanted. They'd do his hair, they'd wash his underpants.
So he lived at the top of this, the top of the heights of this, the living quarters, which, okay, that's fine, I guess. But he was literally just getting served. I mean, and one of the stories that they're going to talk about was just bizarre, because I think about me, I would never want this just a person, but check this out.
We were called 5-story brothers. That is young guys like me that has the opportunity to serve the prophet. Just literally serve him just the way the maid serves kings.
People compare his 5-story brothers to be his personal slave because everything he needs, you must be there. All is in my mind is, where is he now? Has he eaten? Has he taken his bath? Is his shower ready?
You have to be.
Notice the mindset of these people, right? The mindset of these people is not how can I obey God? How can I serve TB Joshua, the prophet of God, the man of God, the apostle, right? So their constantly minds are like the lack of sleep, malnutrition, and then they're trained to constantly be serving the prophet. What does he need? Where is he at? Who's what? This is brainwashing. This is cult tactics.
There in his privacy. If I can use the word even to the nudity, you see everything.
When Theological needs to go to toilet, two of us has to be there in the toilet. He would remove his underwear to his knee level. Then we'd bring it down. We don't allow him to bend down.
He lived there completely by himself.
Oh, sorry. So hold on. I got to get back to that part. But one of the things this gentleman is saying is, hey, we would serve him even while he's on the toilet, to the point where he wouldn't even have to bend down. Like I said, I don't want nobody in the bathroom when I'm using it. I mean, that's just me personally. But it just goes to show you, like, and maybe there was like a degrading aspect to all this. I don't know, but you see how he was literally getting pampered, served hand and foot. But this was what I get to when I talk about like one of the things cult leaders do to avoid people on speaking out is to discredit them. And this is what I'm talking about right here.
You find yourself doing prostitution, you find yourself fornicating, you find yourself doing every evil thing.
He created narratives about all of us. Oh, you know, this one's got a problem with men. Promiscuous.
In the church, how long must be delivered?
I was a virgin, so I didn't understand what this last thing was all about.
So again, one of the things he did, especially with women, and we're going to talk about this as well, is that he would create this narrative is that they're harlots, they're prostitutes. And the lady we just saw, which we're going to play another clip for her of her, she was like, well, he was accusing me of being lustful. And what she means by that is prostitution. And she's like, I didn't know what he was talking about, because she's like, I've never been with a man. I was never thinking about any of these things. But he was constantly accusing her of these things. I want you to check that out in this clip.
He got me to write down that I am a prostitute from Namibia 400 times. And then I signed on camera that it is me, Jessica, signing, I'm a prostitute from Namibia 400 times.
So notice he made her, hey, write, I'm a prostitute, and then sign at the end on camera. So look, that's her. That was her handwriting. That was her saying this. And so what this does is, if you ever come out, he can always say, look, you've signed this document saying you're a prostitute. What narcissists and cult leaders don't do is deal with what you're saying. But what they have to do is show how your moral character is wrong. So therefore, you're wrong, right? So if you call them out, hey, you did this, you do this. Well, hey, remember that one time when you did that? That actually doesn't actually prove they're wrong. Sure, they may have done it, but it actually doesn't prove that they're wrong about what they're claiming. But you create these narrative about people like inside this compound, right? Not sleeping, not eating well. And then you accuse them also of harlotry, especially the women, that they're, so if they ever come out against you, they can always say, hey, well, you tried to come onto me, right? And everybody's going to believe it, right? Because they're a cult leader, they're following a cult leader, right? And also they've painted a picture about you, which has already been around anyway. Even though for this one young lady, it's like, I was a virgin. She's like, I was a virgin. I never did any of these things that I was being accused of. But she went along with it, because she even goes on later in the documentary to say, even though I wasn't doing these things, he had me in my mind thinking I was. Isn't that bizarre? She wasn't doing prostitution, yet he was telling her, the man of God is telling her she is. So therefore she was like, well, maybe I am. Talk about brainwashing. Next, we're going to get into the discipleship meetings. Guys, these are probably one of the most bizarre things. And essentially, a discipleship meeting is a snitching meeting. Let's take this out.
We were obligated to go and report and tell TB Joshua every single thing. If you did the wrong thing, there was punishment. And that was served in different forms. This sister reported me and said, oh, Jessica called me and told me that you touched her inappropriately. He stood up from his chair. Do I do that to you? Can I do that? A man of God?
So notice the gaslighting he does during these meetings. Because during these meetings, he would essentially ask people kind of what are they hearing? And people would stand up, right? You had this with Jim Jones as well. You didn't know who to trust. You didn't know who to trust because that person could turn on you and turn you in. And therefore you would be punished, ostracized, whatever. And so in the meetings, she was kind of, she was snitched on because she tried to confide in someone to say, hey, I'm being touched in an inappropriate manner. That person stood up in a meeting and outed her. He outed her, and his response was like, "Hey, can I do that? I'm a man of God. I'm a man of God. I wouldn't do no such thing, right?" Right. Let's keep going.
I just said, no, sir. She's lying. She's just lustful. He hit me.
But remember, he's already outed her as a lustful harlot prostitute. So who's going to believe her now that he's painted her in this manner, right? You see the problem? What's going on? I hope it's very clear.
He slapped me, he punched me, he kicked me in the stomach.
All disciples go through this. Even the most powerful people have to be brought down because he is at the very top all the time.
If there's a plan for you, when you come to that meeting, you'll be able to defend yourself. Shut up! Keep quiet! What do you want to say? Do you want to argue with Papa? Do you want to argue with Daddy?
Oh, God, please. Please let me.
That's me speaking.
So that's her after one of these humiliating discipleship meetings. They still have that on record.
What are they telling you you used to do?
I'm so unafraid. Can you forgive me, please, everybody, please? You all know me, but I've changed.
I've been laid flat on the floor. My skirt was lifted up and I was just naked. He hit me with that horsewhip.
So she talks about getting beat with a horsewhip, which is, I mean, I can only imagine how terrible that is. But this is the lady who had spoke out prior to the death of TB Joshua. So she's been speaking out, saying these things. I can only imagine how hard it is and difficult it is for her in Nigeria, because this man was a legend. I mean, he literally had politicians on his side. And so I can imagine, like, coming out wouldn't have been any benefit if she was lying. You know, one, people there still don't believe her. But thankfully BBC took this up. But let's keep playing.
We'll ask you lie down on the floor. You use it. Everywhere blood. He beat you without mercy.
Many a times I have been punished with beatings. You are at his mercy. You are at his mercy.
Terrible. Terrible, terrible. A few more clips from part 2. This part I thought was interesting because, again, remember he's being accused of sexual allegations, which we'll kind of get into some of those. But check this out.
For as long as I can remember, I have been raised as TB Joshua's daughter.
So this young girl right here is TB Joshua's alleged out of wedlock daughter, not from his wife, obviously, right? But let's hear what she has to say.
I knew the child, okay, right from birth.
She's his actual daughter, his biological daughter, with another woman outside of wedlock. He doesn't seem to like her very much. She was like kind of labeled the black sheep of the family.
I was in primary school, was made to move to the disciples' room. I didn't volunteer to be a disciple, I was made to join.
Ajoke grew inside the synagogue, like an outcast.
I think he wanted to keep her a secret. I don't think he wanted anyone to know who she was. The message about Ajoke was that she had terrible evil spirits that needed to be driven out. There was a time in the disciples' meetings, he said that people could beat her. Anyone in the female dormitory could just hit her, and I saw people just walking in, just slapping her as they walked past.
Ajoke, little thing, you see somebody slap her.
So not only was she getting mistreated by her father, she was allowed to be mistreated by other members in the compound, right? And I can only imagine how bad that was. They probably just taken out their frustration on her, you know?
There was a particular time that I was very tired. I had slept a little bit too much.
So he started like shouting at her to get up, to get up, to get up.
And there was another, disciple there who basically took her and took her to the shower and whipped her with an electrical cord and then turned the hot water on.
Terrible, the abuse this young girl suffered. And from what I understand, she's now just a wanderer as a homeless young girl, right? She wasn't being taken care of. I mean, he treated her like not a daughter. And so from what I understand, she just wanders the street as a homeless young girl now.
Look at the screen of the television right now.
Somebody who is housemaid pregnanted this girl.
The boy that was helping me, he raped him and I put
Forget
it in
about
his
rape. Nobody raped her. Okay, she's a tempter. That's spirit of tempting.
But notice how even in this clip, how he deals with a alleged a person alleging that they were raped. He's like, nobody raped you. You're a tempter. And so it's like even how he dealt with issues in the church is like, at least investigate this to see if her claim is true, right? Just interesting.
Say rape. You hear her say she's flesh. So let's cast the spirit out of her.
So instead of investigating the crime, you're going to cast the spirit of harlotry out of her. See, that's what I'm saying. These people think sin is something that needs to be casted out of her, right?
Okay? He was a sexual predator. He was a ritualist. TB Joshua asked me to find virgins for him, to bring young girls into disciple fold.
And remember, there were probably plenty around since they were young girls, 16, 17. There probably were plenty around.
In the midnight, this person would be called into his bedroom so that he could disvirgin them. When those girls come out, he usually take all the bed sheets and everything, he pack them and take them to the prayer mountain.
So, hey, get rid of the evidence, right? And I'm sure they were burned. Next clip here, this will conclude part 2, and then we'll move on to part 3.
I witnessed a lot of abortions. Lots of abortions. It can't be counted. They started doing it inside the synagogue. There's a place they call medical department.
So I wasn't sure by watching the film if these were abortions performed because they were TB Joshua's children or just because he didn't want children in the compound. It wasn't sure, but I'm sure some of them were from him. That would only make sense. But again, that part I was not very clear on. But the third part is actually one of the more troubling parts. If you think, oh, K-Dub, how could it actually be more troubling than what we've witnessed? Well, it's because this actually leads to death. Many lives were taken because of this situation. We'll get into it. Part 3 of the documentary gets into many people's lives being taken.
No phone call from synagogue. I couldn't sleep. You're waiting for the next day. You're waiting for the phone call.
Emmanuel TV, God with us.
It was Sunday afternoon. TB Joshua came. It was a life service.
There was all over the world. Let me start from Friday morning. I received a phone call that there was a jet here at the church, hovering around a building, passing over the building 4 times at a very low rate.
So a building of his collapsed, and here's why I'll hold him responsible is because he was told while the building was being made is that it's not stable to how you're trying to build it too high. The foundation won't be strong enough, and you're still trying to build more layers on this, more stories. He was told that. Even the coroner after the the coroner after the building collapsed said the reason why it was because of the building had structural issues. Well, the next day after this happened, or a couple days after, he claims, well, a plane came through and bombed the building. That was his reasoning. even though the coroner did not agree with that ruling. He said it fell down because the building had structural issues. That's very clear. That's very clear why the building. But his response to that is actually the one of the worst.
Before the building collapsed. So we are going to show you the video.
Take note of the upper left-hand corner of the screen. A strange aircraft flies over the building at the Synagogue Church of All Nations. 9 minutes later, the strange aircraft returns. This is the moment of the incident.
On television, they were showing us that the building had been bombed. And they were showing us this aircraft.
Don't be scared. You are not the target, I'm the target. I know my hour has not yet come.
Okay, Jesus. So he's saying, well, the reason why I didn't get bombed by this alleged bomb was because my hour has not yet come. Yes, we know who else said that.
I have not yet finished my job.
I was in South Africa. That's when Daddy called, and the instruction was I needed to assist in going around to these families within South Africa whose children, husbands, or wives had died at the building to go and give money, bags of money. It was scripted. Your relative that has passed on, they are more privileged than you because they died in the house of the Lord. We would give family cash. There were no transfers, we would give cash.
So after this, some of the people who died, their families were kind of getting money. And we're going to see that this was hush money very clearly. Let me just say this. Anybody who just gives you large sum of cash, I probably wouldn't take that money. There needs to be a check, wire transfer, something to document this if you're already believing that it's shady. Now, I'm not talking about $20, right? I'm talking about like thousands of dollars where they're getting you to, hey, look, sorry for your accident. Don't investigate this. Goodbye. Hey, yeah, I'm going to say no too, as many of these families did.
We would tell them they mustn't speak to media, they mustn't give reports on anything.
Don't speak about this.
We were silencing them.
That's right. Hush money.
When they came, we asked, why are you giving us money? We were told it's a gift. I said, no.
Yeah.
This is not a gift. You are trying to buy our silence.
So notice the families that were receiving this money, large sums of money, I don't know how much it was, they weren't buying it either, right? Your loved one dies and your response is just give me, let's just say $10,000 in cash. Just cash? And telling me don't go to the media? That sounds like you're telling me to be quiet. Like, hey, you don't have to say something, right? The money, the bag of money, speaks very loudly, right?
When we refused taking the money, he started threatening us.
Then there's coming with threats.
That's when he said, no, your daughter won't be happy if I don't take the money.
It's not that you are poor, but it's an obligation. Your daughter will not be happy. And so, rest in peace, she will not be happy.
He sent me these messages. It says, if you focus on what you have lost, you might lose everything. Now he's threatening me that my whole family will go down, the same way my daughter went down.
I started searching for information. You start asking questions. What are you hiding? What really happened?
The families were lied to. The aeroplane story is just pure lie. I can tell you the honest truth. On the 12th of September, somebody working in the maintenance department went to that guest house.
Listen to this, because this is so many issues about the building. Someone says, "Was her daughter in the building?" Yes, that lady's daughter was in the building. He was told multiple times about the building not being safe. Watch this.
As he was there, he realized that that building was unstable.
The day the building goes down, someone comes to them saying, "The building's shaky. It's not stable."
Shaky. By 12:01, the building collapsed. They told us then that don't say what you know. So he knew that there was something wrong with the building, but they were managing it.
And because of his management, 116 people died. Multiple people's was severely injured because of this incident.
Plane that dropped bombs. It was structural failure. During the time it was being built, I stood with TB Joshua on that building. He was given instructions to his head of maintenance, and he just kept kind of pushing and saying, "I want it higher, it must go higher." The foundations were never built to cater for the height of the building that TB Joshua categorically demanded must be built.
Which is sad indeed. Well, obviously, you may be asking yourself, did anybody leave during this time? Well,
when I saw the green fields of the UK, I thought, I've done it. I can't believe this has happened. I had to tell TB Joshua I wasn't coming back, because if I didn't, they would come after me. I said, "Daddy, I believe the relationship I have with you is wrong, and I'm never coming back." And for those few seconds before I put the phone down, I heard panic in his voice.
I received a phone call. I was asked if I knew anything about Annika leaving, and I said, no, I didn't. TB Joshua said she left because she says that I was lying on top of her. It just made me think, oh my gosh, I didn't think that that was happening to her. He had said that sort of thing only happens to me. TB Joshua started crying and saying, "You know, I've said whatever I do to you is just for your salvation. I've not done this to anybody else. Whatever Annika is saying is
for her salvation." He was, so he look at the manipulation going on. The manipulation going on. He's abusing these women, all this stuff, and he says, "Hey, I only did this for your salvation." You know, cult leaders will have an amazing way to just have you thinking what they're actually doing is good. Literally beating you, and you're like, "Yeah, did it for your salvation." It's like, yeah, he did it for my good. And these girls are actually believing this stuff.
not true.
They're brainwashed.
The next thing I know, I'm called in and some disciples' parents are there. And he said, you need to tell them that what she is saying isn't true. I remember that meeting because I had to lie, yet knowing what happened to me.
It's just horrible how you go through so much pain and then you cover for the person that is causing this.
Emmanuel, thank you for joining us here.
I was very good at looking happy, but I was dead for a long time inside. I decided I'm out. I can't take this at all. When I left, I went back to confront him because I wanted the abuse to stop.
Can you come here and meet me? I want to speak to you.
I was filming this on my phone in case something bad happened. We'd obviously seen the security manhandle people before.
Let me sit down. Let me get down. Why can't he come here? What? Is it so hard that he cannot come here? When he has
There was just a panic out of nowhere that just grew in the office. TB Joshua didn't see it coming. He didn't expect Angie, you know, of all people, to confront him. So that day felt like his whole life was coming to an end. Everything that he had worked hard for was coming to an end.
And the taxi driver said, okay, look, I can't drive fast. They're going to shoot my tires out.
So yeah, she goes back, right? She wants to confront him, right? She's hemmed up by security. And there was a part where they played like gunshots. Like, I think it was her or somebody else being literally shot at. But interesting. Remember I told you I was going to get to the issue of fake miracles, right? Many false teachers, many cult leaders gain their audience on alleged miracles. And right, we see that today with many of the deliverance ministers today. So let's look at this on how TB Joshua was actually able to fool so many people about fake miracles.
It is time for healing. In the name of Jesus Christ, be healed in Jesus' name.
The miracles he did, the whole thing is stage managed and faked. It's faked. I supervise everything for years. I know everything that happens.
Come out if you're suffering from cancer of any part of the body. Body poison.
It's a complicated system. We have the emergency section.
Here is the emergency section of the Synagogue Church of All Nations.
They are being trained by medical doctors. Any cancerous situation, they send them away. Then, people that have ordinary wounds that can heal, will bring them in to prison.
So pretty much he's saying, hey, if it was too severe, hey, they send you away. But you have ordinary wound, they'll take you in and watch what they do with that.
As cancer.
Oh, they have the ordinary wounds and then they present it as cancer. So they actually don't have cancer. They just have a wound that is presented as cancer.
Well, she is healed.
Those people are being fed medication. They give them drugs to get, speedy recovery.
So, and then they drug them up to where they're okay in that moment, right?
What you just see is the before and the finality. I know because I was synagogue chief video editor.
You think that thing just happened the same day. Some of them took span of 1 year.
So according to this gentleman, the healings would not actually be the same day, but a year later. Remember, after they're getting medical treatment, they're getting drugged up, and then they present it as if it was a miracle.
6 months.
With her wound healed after just a few days. Why should anyone question so much evidence?
Terrible.
The emergency department were responsible for making miracles look real. They would be the ones responsible for writing and approving the placards.
The names of their ailments are written boldly on their placards.
Someone would come and say, I've got a headache, and it would be written down as some other exaggerated condition.
So yeah, they would take some small issue, right? Like you got a stomach pain, and then present it as a bigger issue than it actually was. This is why false doctrine is so bad. Manipulation is so bad, and why the Bible speaks about false teachers being so dangerous. A lot of people come on this channel that leave comments. Why are you judging? Right? Leave them alone. Just present the truth. Just share what you believe. Don't go after these people. Well, these people are leading people to hell. How could I not?
Some people who say, I'm having pains in my leg and waist. We are telling them that, look, if you come out there and walk with your leg, Papa will not pray for you. You must shout, man of God, help me. Man of God, help me. I cannot walk. Man of God, help me.
Literally, you see that. So he's saying, hey, they had to present themselves as not being able to walk. And then when he heals them, now they start walking, right, as they already are able to.
I have difficulty in walking. Man of God, help me. I cannot walk. Man of God, help me. Man of God, help me.
The people themselves are clearly being manipulated. They would be told, exaggerate their problems so that God can heal you, and exaggerate your healing so that God could perfect your healing.
God be the glory. Thank you, Jesus. Oh my God.
To be candid, I've never seen any crippled person that was healed in synagogue church.
Notice what he says. Hey, I've actually never seen this happen. Yeah, and as someone saying in the chat, real healing, even if you take his his profession, biblically, real healing didn't take days for it to happen. So, right, but they can't do it instantly, right? So they have to come up with some other way. But nevertheless, this gentleman says, hey, I've actually never seen anyone get healed in the church, right? And he's part of the head of this ministry. So he was seeing it firsthand. He was seeing all the lies.
TB Joshua was the one who masterminded the manipulation from the beginning to the end.
So he accuses him of being the master manipulator behind all this. Well, a couple more things. I want to get to the court situation or the building situation, because some of you may be asking yourself, hey, what's going on here? What's going on here, right? Like, what happened to the building situation?
Marks exactly a year since the church guest house collapsed. 116 people, including 85 South Africans, were killed.
TB Joshua had claimed his building was destroyed by a terror strike, but the coroner has ruled the building wasn't built properly.
Families suffered a huge injustice because it came out later that actually floors were added without permission, so it was obviously a structural error.
The coroner found that TB Joshua must be criminally liable for whatever happened there.
Notice, so the coroner is saying, hey, you should be held criminally liable. Well, TB Joshua does have to appear in court, but check this out.
He kept on skipping court. The whole case was postponed over and over again. It's like he's been protected by who, I don't know.
Politicians were coming visiting him. He was giving them money. He would give me money. Me personally, he said, drop it in this person's car. There was a time he said $9,000. He bought the whole system.
He never even set his foot in court to come and answer for what happened. No one has been arrested. All we hear is lies and more lies.
So unfortunately, no one was or has been held responsible for those 116 deaths and multiple injuries since that incident. And so yes, a fortunate ending to that. But this is what the end of the film says. So after the building collapsed, the Lagos coroner recommended the leadership of the Synagogue Church of All Nations be prosecuted for criminal negligence. So the coroner was like, something needs to happen. 2 years on, the victims' families are still fighting for justice. TB Joshua's wife, Evelyn, is now leading the church.
Good morning, viewers all over the world. Good morning, church. It is a new dawn.
The BBC contacted church leadership with the allegations in this film. They replied, making unfounded allegations against Prophet TB Joshua is not a new occurrence. None of these allegations was ever substantiated. I mean, literally the government was saying about the building was substantiated. They did not respond to the detail of these allegations, so they didn't actually respond to the allegations. But yeah. And that is how the film ends. Obviously, I encourage people to go watch the full thing so they can have context to a lot of the things I presented here. But let me read a few scriptures just to show you why this is damning. The Bible tells us about this. 2 Peter 2 warns us about false prophets. But listen to this. False prophets also arose among the people. There'll be false teachers that come in within the church, right, claiming to be Christians, but they're all along false prophets. Just as there will be false teachers among you. That's why I try to address these things, expose false teachings, because the Bible promises there will be false teachers today. Many people don't think we should call out any of this stuff. Well, the Bible says they're among us who secretly bring in destructive heresies. This stuff destroys people's lives and sends them to hell. You want me to be quiet? Absolutely not. Even denying the master who bought them, bringing upon themselves swift destruction. And many will follow their sensuality. They get many people to go along with this stuff. And because of them, the way of truth will be blasphemed. And in their greed, they will exploit you with false words. False words, right there, exploit you. Their condemnation from long ago is not idle, and their destruction is not asleep. The Bible talks about this. Bold, verse 10, especially those who indulge in the lust of defiling passion and despise authority. Bold and willful, they do not tremble as they blaspheme the glorious ones, and these glorious ones are demonic powers. This is why I don't believe in Christians should be, I bind Satan. Satan, get out. No, the Bible doesn't say do any of that. Michael, though greater in power, didn't do any of that. What did he say? The Lord rebuke you. But these, like irrational animals, creatures of instincts, born to be caught and destroyed. Wow, born to be caught and destroyed. That'll mess with some people's theology. Blaspheming about matters of which they are ignorant, will also be destroyed in their destruction, suffering wrong as the wage for their wrongdoing. They count it pleasure to revel in the daytime. You know, there is a point in time where TB Joshua wasn't even being secretive about his garbage. They are blots and blemishes, reviling in their deceptions while they feast with you. They have eyes full of adultery, insatiable for sin. They can't get enough of it. They literally can't get enough of it. They're gluttons for sin. They entice unsteady souls. They have hearts trained in greed, accursed children. Forsaking the right way, they have gone astray. Man, verse 17, the Bible's so good. And the Bible tells us about all this stuff. We have to pay attention. They are waterless springs and mist driven by a storm. Imagine that imagery. Imagine being in the ancient world, expecting rain. Your crops need to grow. A dark cloud comes on. You're expecting water to come, and yet you get nothing. The Bible says that's what a false teacher is like. They promise you, right, good, but they in return they give you nothing. For them, the gloom of utter darkness has been reserved. For speaking loud boasts of folly, they entice by sensual passions of the flesh those who are barely escaping from those who live in error. They promised them freedom. Isn't that what TB Joshua said? Did he promise freedom? But they themselves are slaves of corruption. For whatever overcomes a person, to that he is enslaved. For if after they escape the knowledge, right? Okay, I'll stop there, but I do want to read another text. I see someone saying, Prophet Lovi is their favorite. Well, your favorite is a false teacher. I've done numerous videos demonstrating how Lovi himself is a false teacher. But stick around, subscribe, and I'll do more content on Lovi. Going to Jude. Jude is a very 2 Peter type text as well. Notice what this says. For certain people have crept in unnoticed, who long ago were designated for this condemnation. Guys, they were appointed to this. Ungodly people who pervert the grace of our God into sensuality and deny our only Master and Lord, Jesus Christ. I am reading from Jude 4, if you want to follow along, as I see someone is asking. My goodness, so much good in this text here. But this has been promised for us, guys, that there will be false teachers among us. Yet they do not love the Lord. 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 1. But understand this, in the last days there will come times of difficulty. But notice why. For people will be lovers of self, lovers of money, proud, arrogant, abusive. That sounds like TB Joshua right there. Disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, heartless, unappeasable, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not loving good, treacherous, reckless, swollen with conceit, lovers of pleasures rather than lovers of God, having their appearance of godliness but denying its power. Avoid such people. Now, I often get this reference when I call these teachers out. See, they'll say to me, hey, you appear godly, but you don't have the power because you're not doing miracles. Not understanding that this is actually talking about one's character. Not the ability or inability to do miracles or not. This is why context is important. For among them are those who creep into households and capture weak women. You see why he wanted young people, women, burdened with sins and led astray by various passions, always learning and never able to arrive at a knowledge of the truth. This is important, guys. This is very, very important. And this is why the Bible says we are to take doctrine seriously. We're to watch our doctrine closely. Examining to see, is this what the Bible teaches? Again, I know I get a lot of comments of people saying, hey, can't you just talk about the good they do? Talk about the good they do. They gave rice. They gave bags of money to people. My friends, don't be deceived. Don't be deceived by the quote unquote good they do when they, in the back door, in deception, they bring in secret heresies. Right? And so I could go on and on, but I told my wife I would keep this short. So I am not going to go on and on about this, but I hope that you will watch the documentary. And there are learning lessons we can learn from TB Joshua, of men today and his legacy. And so there are many TB Joshuas today. There are many men in his legacy. Daniel Adams, Lovey, Passion, many people today. And so, yeah, they're constantly getting new revelation, all sorts of stuff. But hope you guys enjoyed this video, guys. Till the next time, grace and peace. Grace and peace, y'all. Grace and peace. Hey, till the next time, y'all. Grace and peace.